All right, welcome to the None Taken podcast. I am sitting down today with my friend Ryon Baxter. Ryon is a filmmaker, a writer, director, and actor, and his film Green is Gold won the Audience Award at the recent Los Angeles Film Festival. Welcome, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I just finally got around to watching Ryan's film last night, and it's awesome. Like, it's everything you want.
Thank you.
Like a little guerrilla style indie to be. So congratulations on that. And yeah, let's talk about the film. Let's talk about indie filmmaking, and let's talk about drugs.
Fuck yeah. Drugs. Everyone loves drugs. We're all on drugs. Everyone's on something.
Everybody's on some kind of drug. I totally agree with you on that. And people deny it all the time. And by the way, I'm speaking for myself as well. Like, I mean, for the longest time, I was like, dude, I don't smoke pot. I've never done cocaine in my life. Like, I've never done anything, but I drink coffee. Mm-hmm. I smoke cigarettes. I've taken Xanax before, or sleeping pills before, or Adderall, whatever. And those are all fucking drugs.
They're all drugs. And then we're talking about, what about the behaviors that stimulate the brain chemistry, sex and gambling and fucking...
All of that.
All of that good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it really is...
all that good stuff.
Yeah, that's true. But that's like a... Yeah, I mean, I guess. But I think that's like... Right. It's brain chemicals firing off, right. And like you can get addicted to all sorts of things, drugs or not.
The crazy one is like media, right? Because you're taking media in through an orifice, like your eye or your ears, and you're taking content in, and it's changing your brain chemistry too. So media is even kind of like on the level of like...
I'm 100% with you, man, because, I mean, maybe we don't need to get into this right this second, but like I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but, I often talk about and believe fully that like we don't have free will, like free will is an illusion. Yeah. And so basically like what we are and what we think is a product of, our DNA and then everything that happens to us. Right. And so the way we, the way we communicate, the things we see, like a lot of people separate what we put into our body, whether it's food or drugs or anything else, with what we put into our mind. And they're absolutely the same thing. Mm-hmm. You are taking in something in a very physical sense. Like when you hear me talking, you're consuming my voice in a physical way. Yeah. When you're smoking that, you're consuming that in a physical way. And, same thing with food. Everything around you is this physical stimulus that is played upon by your mind. And so, I mean, there's not that big separation that people think. Like, media is absolutely an influence that comes in, changes your brain chemistry, your brain reacts to it in a certain way, and then you move on from it. And there are certain types of mental stimulation that, you get PTSD. Like there are soldiers who have gotten PTSD just from like deafening explosions, Like it's not even like they were in battle or they were shot at or they saw something gruesome. It was like that loud explosion can cause fucking brain damage and PTSD. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm with you all.
That was awfully early for a tangent for me.
I'm with you on all that. I struggle with the self-will, the idea of self-will, free will rather.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like epigenetics and conditioning or whatever, all the cultural influences. But I still am not totally...
It's just a little bit closer to you.
Yeah, I'm not totally convinced that there's not free will at all. I just think that you have to be a really spectacular human being to like get to that level where you can even attempt to exercise it. I'm not even sure, like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's, because you hear about like some of these sages in India that are able to, not eat, not go without water.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so...
You mean through meditation and control over one's senses?
Yeah, just control over your autonomic nervous system and your bodily functions through your, basically taking control of your subconscious and really directing the ship.
Well, I think that even that stuff can be explained within the realm of determinist theory.
Yeah. What's What's determinist theory?
Well, it's just the idea that free will does not exist, and that the things that you're doing, the things that are happening, are the only things that can happen. And of course, that thing doesn't necessarily mean there's like this quote unquote plan, and that everything's operating in the middle of a machine, although maybe it is. But it's more like everything that is happening moment to moment is the only thing that can happen. You know, so the way that we communicate, like the reason I do this show, like, is it because I want to have conversations with interesting people, like I think it is, or is it because I have some insecure narcissism that makes me think other people want to hear my voice and my thoughts? You know what I mean? So everything is traceable back to DNA and to, you know, the whole nurture side of things. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know.
It's true. Like, how much free will do you have if you're, you know, walking in a desert and you're thirsty as hell, and along comes a freshwater spring?
Yeah, of course.
You're not going to drink it. Of course, you're going to drink it. You know, like, there's no free will on that. So
yeah,
I understand it on that level. I just am like, man, it just seems.
But that's the illusion of free will.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're like, I could choose not to fucking drink it.
Yeah, but what would that mean? You know what I mean?
You're choosing death, which is kind of a fucking crazy choice. To like.
Well, that's true.
And like some of these gurus, man.
But then somebody would say that the response to that would be then that is a deep mental sickness that you have.
Yeah, right.
You know, which would make you choose death over water.
Life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
It seems like there's a lot of people that choose it.
There are.
At some point, they just don't want to leave it up to fate. They're like, listen, I'm going to control the ship.
Sure, but you could also say that is a response to a deficiency in brain chemicals. You know, if you don't have enough serotonin in your brain, you get depressed. If your brain doesn't keep serotonin, so that's why, you know, antidepressants like selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, like they'll keep the serotonin in your brain, and you will feel differently about the same situations. And
those are interesting drugs, the SSRIs.
I was on them for a while.
Really? What was your experience like?
My experience was actually great.
Really?
Yeah, I was never on a high dose, and
which one was it?
Zoloft.
Zoloft, yeah.
Yeah, and this is recent, by the way.
Okay.
But I found myself having anxiety about really insignificant situations. Like I wouldn't want to go to the grocery store because I would be like, oh God, I don't want to drive down there on the same streets I've driven down so many times. I don't want to look for parking. I don't want to go in. I don't want to wait in line. Like all these things. Yeah. And you find those things, you know, adding up and multiplying into an unwillingness to do really basic things.
Yeah.
And it's all just it's
it's
physical anxiety, and so you know, and everybody I think has bouts of depression, and those can be just circumstantial, or they can be you know, kind of more like the clinical depression that we talk about.
I've recently got diagnosed with a major depressive disorder, and they wanted to give me SSRIs. I was just a little concerned about taking them.
Well, I mean, I can tell you about it.
Yeah, my sister, you know, well, I've had, you know, people in my life that have benefited from them tremendously. I just, for me, I've already kind of gone there with some plant-based medicines, and I think you don't want to cross the wires on those ones, you know, that's just, and so I think dealing with it holistically for me was just like the only route. Although, I mean, when it was like Lexapro, I think they wanted to give me, and, you know, I looked into it, and I was like, man, you know, get a little 3 months, you just do it for 3 months,
yeah,
kind of jump. But everything that I was dealing with was situational, and like once I changed my situation and just kind of took care of myself with exercise, diet.
Yeah, and that's awesome when that works for people. Like that's a great route to go.
It's just some people don't have the luxury of being able to implement those, because it's a lot easier to take a pill and go on with your day than it is to like be like, oh, I got to do 5 hours a week of rigorous exercise, and then I have to do meal preparation and planning, and then I have to do, you know, it's like kind of a hassle.
But the catch-22 of that is that it's the depression and anxiety itself that makes it hard for people to do that, you know. And I mean, for myself, like I was, there's never been a period in my life more than a few months where I'm not, you know, doing a regular exercise program, and I don't eat like shit, and my life is fine, you know. But then again, I also have an extraordinarily weird sleep cycle, And
you're in the nightlife.
Yeah, exactly. So
you got so yeah, that's a huge. Vitamin D is important.
Yeah, man.
And if you don't take the K with the D, then you're not uptaking. You know what I mean?
Wait, what kind of K are we talking about?
Vitamin,
Special kind?
Oh no, just vitamin K. That other K. What about that other K?
I have never done that.
Neither have I. It's the one that I haven't. I've experimented with about a lot of things. Not SSRIs yet.
Right.
But
that's not really an experimental sort of thing, man. I mean, it takes if you're doing it correctly in a supervised way, then you need to taper into it and taper out of it. And it does take, it takes a little while for it to start having its effect. Like, you won't feel it for 6 weeks. It's not like a Xanax where you just pop it and you're like, oh, everything's chill. Or like smoking weed where you're like, oh yeah, everything's chill now. But, I mean, for me, I just, I heard, the comedian Neil Brennan.
Oh, the name sounds really
Yeah,
bad.
he was on
I would know him if I saw him.
Yeah, he was on Rogan's podcast once, and he was talking about his experience with depression, and he was like, all I wanted was for the knob to just be turned just a little bit, everything's okay, but like, I know that people are able to do these things more easily than I am, and there's no. Like, this is a curable situation,
Right.
It's like if you sprain your ankle, you walk around on crutches till it feels better,
right.
And people don't think of it that way. But, so I went on it, and I was on it for like a year and a half, and I tapered off. And the truth is, like, right now, I feel not only better than I was feeling before I started, but also I feel better now than I was when I was on it. Like, my head is the clearest it's been in years. I am able to go through my day-to-day life easier than I have been in years. And, I mean...
Productivity's up.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's not been nothing but a positive for me. And yeah. And by the way, I'm not saying that I think no one could ever have a problem with it, but, you have to do it responsibly like anything else. I mean, you can drink alcohol in a responsible way and have it be a facet of an enjoyable life, or same thing with pot or with mushrooms or with anything else.
Right.
But if you abuse it, if you're trying to do too much, or you're trying to use it as a crutch instead of just a tool, then you can run into problems. So I mean, recommending it, like, I mean, it's hard to say, man. Everybody's different about that shit.
It's very personal. Yeah, that's why I'm open to it. I've remained open to it. I just wanted to give it a little, give it a try with changing my some of my daily patterns.
And that's absolutely what I think you should do first.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very, very wise first step to, like, try to do whatever you're able to do to get yourself out of that bad situation, like mentally and emotionally. Yeah. But if you find that doesn't work, the problem, I think, becomes that we've stigmatized pharmaceuticals to a point where people are afraid to do that, and they'll sit in this dark hole of inaction, in unhappiness, rather than go take that step that very well might help you. And the truth is, man, there's some people who are, like, getting close to suicide, as we talked about, and, like, there's nothing sadder to me than when someone is struggling to that level and they're convinced by everyone around them that pharmaceuticals are only there to get you. It's not just about corporate profits when the thing works.
No, for sure. It saved a lot of people's lives.
Absolutely.
There's probably millions of testimonies to
absolutely.
lives.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. By the way, like I said at the beginning,
probably,
my story, my experience was not extreme.
I'm just saying.
Oh no, I know you're not. I know you're not.
I have no. Yeah. I just pulled that out of the ether. I'm not. I'm
sure, buddy. I'm just like talking.
So many people that are on them that are benefiting from them. So that it's
right.
Like, I'm agreeing with you that just being this black and white thinking of stigmatizing all pharmaceuticals because of their business practices and some of their I think.
And by the way, I'm not claiming that they aren't exercising terrible business practices also, but
it doesn't take away the validity of what some of the medicines do.
Exactly. Some of the medicines do save people's lives. I mean, you have to use them responsibly. The interesting thing to me is, and I'm looking forward to hearing your reaction to this, is like, people are like, well, I don't want to, like, help make the pharmaceutical companies rich, and up until very recently, it's like, okay, well, what do you prefer? Do you prefer making the cartels rich? I mean,
right.
You know what I mean? Is the Mexican cartel somehow morally better than the pharmaceutical industry? So I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the answer to that is no. I think they're both on kind of on a similar scale of immoral business practices,
Sure.
but just in different ways. You know, like I mean, I think the cartels. I don't know how much positive benefit they have. So at least the pharmaceutical companies are creating medicines that I mean, I guess they're the lesser of two evils.
I mean, maybe they are, but also maybe they aren't. I mean, if pharmaceutical companies have a cure for cancer and they're not releasing that drug because the treatment of cancer is more profitable than curing cancer, then we've got an immorality on a scale that like makes the Mexican cartel look like
all their beheadings and
yeah,
all that looks kind of when you talk about not only are we gonna not give you the cure to the sickness, but we're gonna make what could be scientifically proven to be close to a cure illegal in a Schedule 1.
Yeah, the Schedule 1 thing is insane to me.
Insanity. It's a power move. It's a real statement. It's a metaphor. It's like, listen, this is how much power we have.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, but my understanding of the Schedule 1 is that basically they have determined that a substance has no medicinal use whatsoever. And that's fucking insane.
Well, yeah, they just recently made CBD a Schedule 1.
And CBD doesn't even have any sort of
psychoactive effects.
That's fucking crazy.
It has, and there's countless examples of children being cured of their seizures completely with no side effects other than
And the idea that those experiences are only anecdotal and could not be proven in a lab is beyond my understanding. Like all they have to do is test this stuff in rigorous clinical trials to understand that it really does work.
Totally.
I mean, I mean, the idea that they don't do that, and the funny thing is now they're starting to test like LSD and MDMA in clinical trials again because they know that it helps with depression and anxiety and stuff.
And PTSD, MDMA.
Yeah.
It's in Marin, the centers up in Northern California. They just clinical studies where you can go. I think the way they administer it is with a practitioner and like a regimented dose.
Right.
And you go and you do like a 12-hour therapy session with this person, and you do it 2 days in a row, I think, and then you do a follow-up weekend, and you kind of the way they set it up is pretty cool. It's a lot better than, in my opinion. I think has more value than going to a festival and just sticking your pinky into a plastic bag a bunch of times. That's.
Well, dude, it's funny too in a society that like reveres our veterans ostensibly so much that we are actively preventing, and I don't mean you and me, obviously, I mean like governmentally, we're actively preventing a potential cure for these people. And by these people, I mean people who are voluntarily potentially giving their lives to serve the country. And if it's not a mortal thing, then they're subjecting themselves to lifelong injuries, mental and physical. And the best we're gonna say to them is that like, sorry, these are Schedule 1 narcotics, and we can't allow this to save you. I mean, that's pathetic to me.
It's really it's actually immoral on a really I
agree with you. No, you're not going to find any blowback from me, man. I'm totally
fucking wrong. And then you look into the NFL too, and like how much backlash they're giving their players. It's like you guys are bastards, man. It's like the one thing that has no negative side effects other than we know
feeling like super chilled out and being able to listen to music better.
Yeah, but we're talking about for just muscle recovery.
Sure.
These athletes are taking such a beating, man. It's like,
dude, a year or so ago, I had Keith Rivers on the podcast, and Keith is a former like 7th overall draft pick into the NFL, went to USC, and then played I think 7 seven, 8, 9 seasons, something like that.
Wow.
But one of the main reasons he got back was because, or he got out was because, he was competing every day against guys that were on actual performance enhancers,
Oh, yeah.
and at the same time, the league was making it impossible for guys who actually have injuries and actually have physical problems that have resulted from them playing. Don't have any real strong insurance for after they leave the league. It's basically on them to figure out the rest of their lives, medically speaking, and that while they're playing, even though it's totally legal for recreational use in multiple states where they have NFL franchises, like, people are still losing their careers for smoking pot, and it's fucking crazy.
It's crazy, dude.
Anyway, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the film, man, because I was like so stoked for you as soon as I finished watching it, because it's so cool to see people actually hustle their asses off and make indie films like the old-fashioned way. Like, how? Okay, so you tell me, man. Like, tell me about the filmmaking process, the budget, like the size of the crew. Like, tell me the whole thing.
So, the crew was me, Justin Potter, who shot the film, with Mike Balky, who also they co shot the film or whatever.
Yeah.
And Jacob Langhoff and Sam Conway, and my little brother Jimmy, who acted in the film.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And then my other little brother Mikey, who kind of just was helping with everything.
Okay, before we go on,
so there's like six of us.
There's two little brothers, and now I don't think this is any sort of spoiler, but at the end of the film, you see the little brother as an older version of himself.
Yeah, we waited 2 years to shoot that.
Come on.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I was like, how did that happen? Like, how did you guys get that? Because I was like, there's no way that they did this in a makeup trailer. That's so funny. No, that's amazing.
We just waited to shoot that.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
Because the whole idea, because I developed it when I was in film school. So this was like the project that I was working on, and I shot like a little spec, a couple scenes from an early draft, and anyways, it was like a proof of concept kind of thing, and all the while my little brother was just like growing up, so we never really could figure out a way to utilize that footage because time went by, so we just, but yeah, it was a crazy process, dude. I mean, we did 4 weeks. It was 4 weeks, 6-day weeks, and it was like, we never went over 12 hours. And we the way we set it up was we may have gone over 12 hours a couple of the days, but for indie filmmaking, like, that's pretty solid to keep it in.
Yeah, totally.
So, and we really tried to be mindful of that, and then we we shot all our night stuff lumped together so that we didn't have any weird kind of sleep cycles. We definitely shot it out of order to make sure that we just had to. It's the only thing we could do. But man, yeah, it was fucking insane.
So budget-wise, we're talking about like absolute shoestrings here.
Yeah, the production budget itself, like what I spent on those 4 weeks, was like $20,000.
Okay, that's fucking cheap as hell. Cheap. And you just took on the investment yourself completely.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. That's fucking ballsy.
I borrowed it.
That's good shit. I loved it. I was so happy when Tony hit me up. So, one of the producers of the film is, for anyone listening, is one of my best friends in the world. We used to write together for years, Anthony Burns, and he just kept telling me, like, dude, you have to see this film. Like, I'm doing the craziest thing right now. Like, this dude just completely made this guerrilla style indie about pot, and like, I'm just like, all right, buddy, whatever you say, man. And
Tony saved it, because I was lost at sea, man. Like,
and this is like in terms of like post, or
a year into post. You know what I'm saying? Just, everything it was just all like DIY, so it took a long time to make things happen. Like, just because to raise the money and then to pay debt back and then to borrow more and then pay debt. You know what I'm saying? It's just like constantly taking a long time, and I just didn't know what to do with it. at a certain point, and I was really, really just kind of over it. He moved to town. We had known each other for a few years.
Oh, you had?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
And and I'm friends with his brother-in-law.
Code.
And anyway, so it was a very organic way of us kind of building the friendship over a few years, and then this opportunity came. I'm like, I need someone to edit this thing, and he's like, well, I know a guy, and then he came on and he helped produce it from that point on. And once he did, he really helped in the post process. Like, it was incredible to have his perspective because he understands writing and structure so well. You know what I mean? He was able to, because editing really is like the last draft of writing.
True.
So it was. It was great. Dude,
yeah, I mean, he fucking schooled me so hard on writing when I first started working with him. Like, it was just, I mean, the difference between me as a writer before Tony and I started working together and me after, it was like night and day. Yeah, I mean, he just is a genius on knowing all the moves. And it's just great, man, to have somebody like that around that you can learn from at the same time you're collaborating with them. You know?
He's
Okay, so tell me what it was like. Tell me what it was like working with your younger brother, because it's interesting. I didn't. So at some point in the middle of every film, like, I always find myself on IMDb, like, seeing who all the actors are, like, checking how long the film is, because I want to know, like, where things are happening while I'm watching them. And so I'll, in any film I watch at home, like, I'll pause it, 10 times just to be like, okay, this is happening now. Like, just looking at where it is in terms of the actual timeline. So when I opened it, I was like, wait a second, Jimmy Baxter. I was like, wait, this is actually your little brother.
My actual little brother. It's my youngest brother. So I come from a sports family.
Oh, this is gonna be a thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Crosby, come on, man. I'm sure that there's like a mailman delivering something. There he goes with like the serious growl.
So Jimmy and I have
go ahead.
We have the same dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And different moms.
Okay.
Yeah, he's my youngest brother. He was he's 17 now. He was 13 when we actually shot the film. Right, and then it was right before he turned 14, and then that last shot we got of him was like he was like 15.
Right. So did he ever act at all before this, or were you just like, I know he can do it, let's do this?
So when I was in film school, he was very interested in performing. You know, he was dancing all the time, like hip hop dance.
He even had some of that in the film too.
Anyways, he was just like always like into it and expressed a desire, and I just kind of wanted to give him the opportunity to. And he worked on a couple things. He did some friends of mine in film school made some little projects that involved him, some comedy stuff, and he kind of dug in on that. And the dramatic stuff, though, when we shot that little short, the early version, it worked. It felt like it worked.
So was there anything that you guys kept from that from the short film version, the little
No.
Okay, so that was
the
all
whole
new.
concept. It really, the story evolved completely from that version of the draft. It changed quite a bit. The earlier versions are just like completely different films. It's like it could legitimately be completely different.
Right. Okay, so the film, just to give some background, is I mean, it's funny because a lot of the reviews and the write-ups call it a drug film, but it's more of like a family kind of coming of age film with drugs as a backdrop. Yeah. Like it's not fucking Scarface. Like it's not about gangsters or anything. It's about an older brother who gets stuck taking care of his younger brother after his single dad gets sent away to prison. And I mean, there's just so much more in there about that older brother, younger brother relationship, and just trying to look after someone when you're barely capable of looking after yourself.
Totally.
And so I thought that was really interesting, and it separates it from, I mean, pretty much every drug film I've ever seen. And I mean, for me watching it, I mean, I can relate to a lot of that because I'm a middle brother, so I have the little brother perspective and I have the older brother perspective, and then you don't see what's coming by the end, and all of a sudden you realize you're so much more invested in the characters than you thought you were, which is so cool because without giving too much away, they're placed in imminent danger, and you have no idea what's going to happen. Like, which is so funny because in a lot of these drug films, like you really think like, okay, here comes the downfall. You know what I mean? Right. Or like, here he comes, going to be like rich and become a gangster and all that shit. And it's like neither of those. And you're just there, like on the edge of the seat, being like, what the fuck is going to happen to these two kids? And I thought that was like really, really beautifully handled, man. Like, it was unique, and it was really powerful and effective. So I don't know, man. Just
awesome. Thank you.
I mean, I'm just not like, I'm not trying to just like give you my review, but like, how did you? Right. But I mean, how did you come to that as a writer, as a creator, and then I suppose as a director, being able to capture those elements of fear and danger in such a really wonderful and unique way. Like, what brought you to that point in the process? Like, where did you realize, like, wait a second, if I can handle it like this, I think that's going to be the right wrap on this?
Think about it, because in an earlier draft, I think I still explored some of. I wanted the relationships to be the focus. I really wanted to tell a story about brotherly love because I have 3 little brothers and I'm the oldest, and I feel a lot of love for my brother. Of course, a lot of life, and it's just it's a special kind of bond. You know what I mean? So wanted to capture that. Also wanted to portray the cannabis industry in an authentic way as it's happening.
I can. Yeah, you did a lot of research.
Yeah. I mean, I just felt like there was an open void. It was absolutely, it needed to happen because there's just been a lot of content, you know, with cannabis as a central focus. It just doesn't,
and with whatever level of authenticity.
Yeah, we're just talking about, you know, very conventional. Things can be conventional with some of the stoner comedy genre, and I love the genre. I grew up on it. This is what inspired this partially. It was kind of like, well, wouldn't it be interesting if there was like an actual, like, just a real story with an authentic portrayal of the world that's not just like,
it's not stupid comedy. It's not about people getting high. You know, it really is. It relies completely on the relationships, which I thought was really cool. And actually, let me ask you this, man, because this is something that I think I was thinking this before I realized that the character playing the brother was actually your brother, because there are super controversial scenes in the film.
Yeah,
and
I felt like that. Yeah.
Did you feel? Were you aware of the controversy that was going to be present while you were making it? I mean, I guess that's what I want to ask, because like, basically there's 2 elements of this film. And again, I don't think I'm giving anything too important away here, but you have an element, you have 2 particular things. You have the little kid handling marijuana and like the growing process and all this. And then you have a scene which is a blatantly sexual element.
Right.
Not that he's involved, just so people are aware.
Right.
But both of those are very edgy for a certain audience. And I mean,
it's
without
rated R, you know.
Yeah.
It's rated R.
But I just mean in terms of the exposure of someone who's clearly underage to these situations. Like, was there any I mean, him being your little brother made that probably a lot easier, but I mean, it's fucking edgy, dude. It is.
Yeah.
You just didn't give a fuck.
Here's the thing. I gave a lot of fucks.
Okay.
I still give a lot of fucks. And to be honest, I don't think I don't know yet. I don't really know. I know that, you know, the cannabis that my little brother was, you know, his character was smoking or whatever. On screen, he was not smoking cannabis.
Of course.
And then, like, for the sex scene, he wasn't there.
Oh, of course. No, I understand from,
like,
yes.
And then, like...
But the portrayal of it is what I'm saying.
Right, yeah, and you know, here's the deal. I wouldn't, as an older brother, put my little brother in those situations.
Right.
But the character chose to do that.
And
like,
characters in real life choose to do that all the time.
They do. And I have, you know, and then there's a lot of edgier shit that could have gone down, you know?
Of course.
Like, it's just like, I didn't really want to... Yeah.
Dude, I mean, listen, a lot of...
It depends on who we're talking to, because to some people, like controversy at this point, like, what's controversial? Nothing is. It's like...
I'm with you.
Like, you go to Broadway and you see the Book of Mormon, dude. On Broadway.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful, like, I mean... Or, like, just... There's nothing sacred anymore, it feels like. There's nothing...
I mean, I hope that's true, but...
I mean, it feels like that way. Not to me, but, like... I guess, who am I speaking for then? Here's the deal. It feels like okay, what I'm observing in our culture.
Right.
There's a lack of.
Go, man, go. You can.
You know what I mean?
Dude,
like,
by the way, you can rant and diatribe on this as much as you want.
I thought it would be a lot. I was way stressed out about it. I was worried about it for sure.
You mean in terms of how it would be received or while you were filming?
How it would be received while I was filming. I like, to be honest, I was like, thank God my little brother rules, and he's super talented. Right. You know what I mean? Like, he gave a great performance.
Oh, I agree.
I'm like, he fucking crushed it. And it was like, I was witnessing it as it was happening, and as a director, I was just so fucking like, you know, because he was excellent at sports. Excellent at Pop Warner. I went to all his games, and like, dude, he would score like 4 touchdowns a game. Like, really he had moves, dude. And then he just was disinterested in sports, and I was like, well, let's fucking get into some fucking art, you know? Let's see how he takes to that. And he was really into it for those years. And then I feel like, yeah, it was beautiful to watch, dude. It was like watch, you know. And then I have other little brothers too. Like my little brothers are really good at sports, and I go watch their games, and they're in like the playoffs, you know, whatever. And you're just like, you know, it's just like I got to root for them. So it was cool to see that.
God damn it, I just forgot what I was going to ask you, and that's really a terrible, terrible thing for me to do. Strangely, I'm not even the one smoking pot.
But here's the
not
deal.
that you are. You're smoking more of cigarettes.
The reason being, who could I have cast? I couldn't have. You know what I'm saying? Like,
totally.
Really, like, legitimately.
Yeah, because I could imagine parents not being totally down with that.
Or if they were, like, it would have been, you know what I mean? Like, you're like...
So, have you gotten any blowback from kind of the film industry side of it, like reviewers or anything? Because, you know, you guys won the audience award, but I wonder what the response from the critical side of that festival was.
Oh, I feel like it was well received.
Good.
For the most part.
I mean, fuck, they put it in the festival.
It's been well received, I believe, and that's a beautiful thing too, because it took 6 years to make it. You know
wow,
what I mean?
Man! Wow.
Like, start to finish, you're like, man, that was 6 years of my whole life. And
that's fucking crazy.
And I don't really know. I wonder, would it have been better to spend that time and energy and effort, like maybe, you know, taking my little brother around the world instead of
it wouldn't have been better.
A movie? I'm like, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, dude, I wanted to teach him how to make movies.
Yeah,
because like his other alternative was to literally learn how to grow dope. I was like telling, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what people do up there. That's literally, if you have no opportunities, that's what you do. Because that's the only opportunity.
And you address that in the film too.
Yeah.
Like there's a part where you're like, well, I don't know how to do anything else, and I want to start a business, but this is going to lead into that business.
Right. I mean, and that's literally, I would say probably that's fucking the majority of the people in this whole state, in the whole country that are, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But now it's...
And you don't mean the pot thing, but you mean people feeling like they're stuck in a certain situation, like my education wasn't that good, my opportunities are very slim, like I have to do what I have to do to make it by.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I really felt like Cameron had no choices.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I mean, everyone has choices, but you know, we're talking about free will, right?
Yeah.
Look at all his conditioning.
Exactly. Dude, and I think that was handled really well. I mean, there's no mother present in the family's life, whether she's dead or gone, or you don't really know. But and then the father's gone too. So it's like, what else are we going to do as these two kids just trying to figure out our lives?
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, where Cameron was coming from is like he just lost his closest partner, you know, the previous year, so he's just kind of stuck having to rebuild. He was in a rebuilding phase, and then that on top of this, on top of that, it's just like, you know.
I think, dude, there's this real present authenticity in what you made, and I don't know that a glossier, like higher budget sort of film where you have to answer to investors and do all that, you know, I don't know if you get there in that kind of filmmaking environment. Like there's just something
I don't either, cause
extra, and of course, but like, I mean, I'm just saying, if somebody else's money was on the line and they wanted it a certain way, I mean, the first thing you would end up having to give up in that film is that level of authenticity that you were able to achieve. You know, and I think that's one of the greatest things about these small indies, and I think that's something that that film in general has lost over the last 15 years. You know, because I mean, so many factors, obviously, but money being the primary one, and the marketing of films and stuff. But you know, we've kind of lost that whole middle ground of filmmaking where, you know, people are allowed to make truly authentic films on a reasonable mid-sized budget.
Totally. I mean, this was
now.
All in. People don't do this right, but it doesn't really matter. But all in, at the end of the day, it was like 115.
Yeah.
You know, legit.
Yeah, and I mean, and you're
like,
talking about 85 of that on stuff that is aside from the actual filmmaking.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, all kinds of stuff. But neither here nor there. That's just what it is, and that's fine. And I still have some things I got to take care of in regard to that.
Yeah, but that's part of
what it is.
That's what you sign up for.
Business or whatever. I'm not good at it, but I'm trying to get better at it.
Yeah, and you got T-Bird helping you out too. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Dude, Tony's been a genius about that stuff, man. And in terms of like as a producer, man, I've watched him.
He's powerhouse, dude.
I mean, I've seen him when he was involved with making the Jimi Hendrix film. I was over in Ireland with those guys, and he is just on it all the time, just on it.
Dude,
and
serious, bro.
Dude, his work ethic is honestly inspiring for me to watch.
Yeah,
it's funny because when we were writing, when we started writing, you know, he knows my schedule and the lifestyle that I have to lead just to you know, obviously take care of myself financially, and then to create enough space for me to do these other things. And he was like, listen, man, here's what it is. I write in the morning. I get up at, 6 or 7 in the morning. I got my wife. I got my baby. Like, this is when I write. And I'm like, well, I can either not get up this early and not do this, or I can just do what Tony needs me to do. And the best thing for me about it was that he totally like changed around my habits and my ability to write during the day, because my crutch used to be like, I'm gonna write at night. Like, I like when everything is dark and everything around is quiet, and I know nobody's gonna call me. I know I don't have to go anywhere and do anything for anybody else. I can have a glass of whiskey and a cigarette and sit down at the keyboard. And that used to be my crutch.
That's your
you know,
process,
and to get out of that, to be able to write during the day without any without obviously drinking, and just being able to work when I need to work, dude. What a valuable lesson that was for like me to learn, and I wouldn't have done it without Tony. You know.
Yeah, he's a serious
professional. So there's a part of the film where the little brother says, like, what's going to happen when this gets legal? And your character's response was, well, this is never going to get legal. And so then it was about like how the pharmaceutical companies would make sure that,
Right.
which to a degree is true. I mean, obviously on the federal level, that is still the situation.
Now they're going to make sure it is legal, but for
right, but
their own.
And honestly, dude, that's fine.
Bayer is a major player.
Right, of course. But I mean, that's almost the way it has to go.
And in the state, like in California, for instance, it's just crazy right now.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask you about.
It's
like where do you see the pot business going? Or I guess you should just say the cannabis business, because it's not just people smoking pot anymore. You know,
it's all kinds of things.
Yeah. So now we are legal for recreational use.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you still have to buy at a distributor right now? Unless you're growing, obviously, or buying it off a friend. Like, you can't just, you have to have a card and go in, right?
Yeah, there's no, like, recreational retail stores that you can buy cannabis at right now. It's just dispensaries. And I don't know, they're still trying to sort out the new medical laws that just got implemented going into effect next year with the Bureau of Medical Marijuana and just regulating all these permits in each county. And I mean, they're still trying to sort all that out. Now this recreational thing passed. That's like on the back burner. They haven't got to that yet. Really. I mean, they kind of have. They have a legit plan, but it's so convoluted.
So I don't know where this is right now, but like, if you want to smoke pot, you still have to get a card, right? If you want to buy marijuana legally right now, you still have to get a card, or is it like, when does that recreational law, I guess, go into effect? I mean, is it already?
I think 2018, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. We could look it up.
Nah, I mean, that's all right. We can just bullshit about it instead.
I mean, so who follows? I mean, it's like, there's a seatbelt law too. But people, like, I think in California, if you have an ounce, it's a ticket. It's a $50 ticket to have an ounce of weed. So you're like, oh well, whatever. Yeah.
So I mean, people aren't.
Ticket $75.
I mean, for me, the best part of it is, I know on, like, I've talked to plenty of people who are really into cannabis who are unhappy with the law being passed and wondering where it's going to take their personal business, their personal use, or even just, the way it's viewed. But for me, I always think that like the worthwhile trade-off is that people are not getting locked up for this shit anymore.
Well,
I
think
hopefully we're reaching that point.
I think that's a big misconception, because there's a lot of people that still get locked up for it. I just think it's it's just maybe less. I'm talking. Right?
Well, I guess I'm talking about, like, the people who are, getting patted down and a cop finds a little bit of weed on them. Like, they're not getting hauled off to jail anymore, right? Or maybe I'm wrong.
Not in California. No.
Right.
I think the law is just a ticket for up to an ounce.
Okay.
And then if you have over an ounce, I think it becomes something different. But I think it may, but I don't know about Illinois or Chicago. Or
sure.
Or Idaho or Arizona. In Arizona, it's pretty heavy. And
right, Texas, pretty heavy.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just different. It's weird. There's all these little, like, bubbles. Little, there's little safe zones. It's like, if you're in this little bubble, then you can do this. Like, if you're in Sonoma County, you can have 3 pounds on you if you have a card. 3 pounds.
3 fucking pounds.
I don't know what LA County.
Yeah, I don't.
It's probably 8 ounces. There's like a state.
But that's still a good amount of marijuana.
Yeah, it's a half pound. It's like,
yeah.
You can get high for a day or 2.
That's hysterical, dude. If you're very,
really
very serious about your consumption.
If you're feeling inspired.
Okay, so what do you think? What is your sense of where the people in Northern California, the people the people that are in the business, like, what is your sense of where they are with the new laws and the regulations in terms of their own growing, their own supplying and stuff?
There's like an overall acceptance.
I don't think these sirens are for us. Those sound like ambulance sirens to me.
Yeah, there's a lot happening out there.
Well, the children's hospital is right there, so.
Yeah.
They go to the Scientology Center and then they immediately get shipped off to the children's hospital to unbrainwash them.
Oh man, there's an overall acceptance. I would say that's just what it is. I think everyone's just accepting. I mean, listen, this has just been a constant since 1996, a constant evolution of like.
In '96 is when they started approving it for medicinal.
Yeah,
okay.
and then now this is the newest addition to that, which is Prop 64, which is just basically saying, okay, we're discontinuing all those old laws and regulations. It took 20 years of case law being made, and then all these other case, so the law constantly evolves.
Sure.
So that we're about to witness that again for the next 20 years.
Right.
So it's just a completely different parameters, and there's people that are positioned in a certain way. So it's like there's an overall acceptance. I think all the game's changed completely. It's not going to be what it was, just for the simple fact that they're going to allow for so much cannabis to get grown in the state now.
Yeah.
Legally.
Yeah.
That it's just like you're not going to be able to survive off your fucking 4 lights in your garage. Like, many people in these valleys are doing, they're supplementing. There's just that's not there anymore.
Sure. I mean, and I guess that's unfortunate in a way for those people, obviously.
Maybe it is. I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
Hold on.
But now you can't get capped for it anymore.
It could be. You never know.
So it's an adjustment period.
I don't want to make predictions because things are so crazy, dude. You can't things come out of left field every other minute, dude.
Yeah, it's kind of moving. It's kind of moving too quickly for anybody to even really catch up with it, right?
I mean, I have no idea. There's so much in the world right now. There's so much madness. You know what I'm saying? Like, how you can predict anything? Yeah. Like, so here's what I predict: more weed's going to get grown in California than ever before, and that's going to flood the market. It's a commodity. It's going to do a lot of things. I think it's great because on one hand, you got Prop 64, which makes it now even more regulated, which means that the medicine is going to be more, like, the quality is going to go up because you're going to have to meet certain standards of regulation. Like, before, you got all these, there's some really shitty farmers out there that are just in it for money, easy money. It's not easy, but I'm saying they're making it easier on themselves by spraying, neurotoxins on their plants to get rid of mites and doors and all this just crazy farming practice. It's not like you gotta grow organically. If you're talking about medicine, you can't be using fucking Avid on all these crazy miticides. You know what I mean? Like all these indoor. It's like no one gives a fuck. You got these like
that's interesting.
Greedy bastard. And if you're smoking indoor, there's a good chance that it's just not organic, and there's a really good chance that that flower has seen some type of gnarly pesticide. Really?
I love how you call it flower.
It is.
I know. So I think one of the best things though is that like California has often set trends for the country in terms of where the laws are going and stuff, and it's so crazy that we're actually behind on this one.
Behind on the gay marriage thing, because Colorado, and then behind on, I'm just saying behind on the cannabis thing.
Yeah.
Like, this is
the gay marriage thing was a lot of out-of-state influence and a lot of out-of-state money, which sucks. But dude, the truth was that even people like Obama didn't have the balls to stand up for it in the beginning. And I understand that's a political calculation, and he did what he felt like he had to do.
Right.
And obviously, I think it sucks that anybody had to be the casualty in that war. But now it is settled law. Trump came into office saying it's settled law, like gay marriage. I mean, and sometimes these battles just take a little while to win. But it's good. I mean, even if it's not California setting the precedent, at least somebody did.
California's going to set its own precedent because every state, like Oregon, they have their own precedents. They're hardcore up there for what they require. Like if you want to bring your flowers to the market, they have to meet a certain standard that is crazy. And they test it, and it's like there's going to be a lot of people that fail.
But that's even kind of good too, because it makes everybody up their game. And like, I mean, I would assume as a consumer that you want the best possible product that you can consume.
Totally.
So I mean,
especially if you're dealing with sick patients, we're talking about.
Absolutely.
You want to call it medicine? You know what I mean?
Then it has to be medicine.
Come on, you got to cultivate that organically without pesticides. You got to do it.
Yeah, God, man. So how long do you think it's going to be? Like, just, I mean, obviously this is just a guess, but how long do you think? How far away do you think we are from just full on legalization of marijuana? I mean, I always think
it could go back to the Stone Ages real fast.
You think so?
I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that
that was a power move. The CBD becoming Schedule 1 was a serious power move.
Yeah, goddamn. What the fuck is wrong with people? I mean, it can't get you high. It can't get you high. So what is the moral justification for doing that?
I think
that's
I think
just
that
as
was,
rhetorical as anything else, but
I think because the CBD was what was bridging the gap for people philosophically,
right.
whatever it is, all the propaganda that's been against cannabis for various reasons, from all that is being kind of like, there's like a common awareness now, and I think the CBD was even helping bridge the gap for some, for a lot of religious people, a lot of really right wing, just you know what I mean. That we're talking about everyone's suffering. Everyone knows what it feels like to suffer an ailment. Everyone's bummed their knee out or their ankle or whatever, man. And to have something that alleviates that pain for a moment, I mean, come on.
I know, man. I think it's just a fucking cruelty, honestly.
It's fucking weird.
It is fucking weird. And
I get it. It's the most powerful psychedelic in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone thinks like ayahuasca or ibogaine is, but no, cannabis is, because you can't overdose on it. You can eat it, and you can in the highest amount of doses to where you could be high for a week straight. One type of talk about a vision quest.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 days of just barely being able to walk. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not recommending that people do it. I'm just saying that people have done it, and there's no one dies from a THC overdose. You know what I'm saying?
But I guess mushrooms would be the same way, right? Like, I mean, you can psychologically overdose on mushrooms, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, can it? I don't think it can kill you.
I don't know, but mushrooms are a different thing. Those are a different thing.
Yeah.
It's a different plant. It's a fungus. It's not
I love that plant.
That's the weirdest one in the world.
Yeah. What's funny is we were in
no genetic similarity to any other thing on this planet.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And it can the spores. They can travel through space and live. So there's a good chance that they came in on a meteor.
That's amazing.
Time,
yeah.
From a different. And when you ingest it and have those little tryptamine things work in your brain, I don't know what that shit does. But it's crazy.
Dude, so we were in Thailand not last month, at the beginning of December, and we went to the Phuket Elephant Sanctuary, and it's a great organization. They basically rescue these elephants out of, they have the whole elephant riding thing and the circuses and all that. Yeah. And what they do in these elephant riding things, a lot of people do it because they think it's awesome. Like, I'm going to ride an elephant like I'm fucking King Hammurabi or something. And these are 800-pound seats that they strap these elephants to. And then they put you up on there. And then the rest of that elephant's life is spent chained up and whipped and essentially tortured by the people that are keeping them. So
you're enslaving one of the most
magnificent creatures that we have.
Sentient beings on the earth. Their language is so advanced. They have funerals for their family members that pass on. They have rituals. They're sentient beings of the highest order.
Yeah, and they definitely feel emotional loss when they're separated. By the way, because these the people that take these elephants and train them in these things are taking babies away from their mothers and moving them into this life of servitude, and they live for a long fucking time. Some of the elephants that we they can. Yeah, some of the elephants that we had met were they had been in captivity for 30 plus years. Oh, wow. And so these people get these elephants and they have like a 30-acre jungle essentially where they can care for these elephants. They are penned up in these massive pens when they sleep and stuff, just so that they don't wander off or actually cause any problems. But they're not chained up.
So
they
it's a
have
sanctuary.
amazing relationships with the people who watch over them.
That's great.
But no, it's a fantastic organization, and you guys can look it up. It's Phuket Elephant Sanctuary, and but the thing is, man, so we were walking with these elephants through the jungle sanctuary, and like every, you know, I think there was maybe 2 or 3 spots that we saw over the course of this walk where there was like some massive pile of elephant shit, and then there were fucking psychoactive mushrooms growing in the shit.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
I
wonder what varietal.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Psilocybin.
Dude, but we were so we asked the people. We were like, what kind of mushrooms are these? And of course they smile and laugh and whatever. And we were like halfway tempted to like pick them and take them home. But there's I don't know, man. There's some like disgusting element of actually eating mushrooms when you know what the shit that came out of was. Like I remember picking this directly out of shit, and now I'm putting it in my mouth. Like that is not a happy thought to have.
Right? Yeah, I try not to think about it. I like it when it's like made into a nice little minty chocolate.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So what I was going to ask you before we diverted onto the mushroom conversation was, you know, I think one of the craziest things about the pot discussion is talking about marijuana as a gateway drug.
Oh, that's hilarious. I think it's the funniest one.
Yeah, I mean, and let me just say this, and then I want to hear what you have to say about it. But I think one of the funny byproducts of legalizing it is actually going to be taking away the idea that it's a gateway drug, because I think a lot of people, the gateway psychology isn't, oh, I love how marijuana makes me feel, let me try another drug. It's, I have now consumed an illegal drug, so other illegal drugs seem less scary.
Yeah, like
you know,
your weed dealer is also selling blow. That's the psychology, right?
Yeah,
of that theory. Your weed dealer is just going to try to get you to buy the blow,
yeah,
or something along those lines.
But so once it's legal and people are just accepting it for its you know, medicinal or recreational purposes, like nobody thinks of alcohol as a gateway drug. People don't call alcohol a gateway drug because it's legal and accepted, and no one has that moral blowback from consuming it.
From my personal experience, because you know I experimented quite a bit in my youth. I haven't drank in like almost 12 years.
Good God.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I haven't done any narcotics in that long, so it's like other than after post knee surgeries that have a few days or whatever. But I definitely like. Where was I going with that? Gateways. In my experience, all of the narcotics that I experimented with, I was drunk first. I was drunk. Yeah. And I was like, oh fuck yeah, I'll do some blow and fucking sober up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever, and keep shredding through the party, whatever. I don't know. Like every time, and then it would just, you know.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, so that's just my personal experience. I can't speak on everyone else's, but also I feel like cannabis has helped a lot of people get off other drugs.
That's probably true too.
If we want to talk about it,
and I know people like that.
Oh yeah, I do too. I have a lot of friends that have, not a lot, but I have a few friends that have been able to like get off opiates. But, you know,
yeah, exactly.
Supplement with heavy doses of edibles or concentrates, and that's just their way.
I know people who have stopped drinking and stopped doing blow because they just are like, you know what, I can take a hit of this every half hour out of this little vape pen, and I'm good for a whole night. I don't need anything else. Right. And you know, I mean, as far as habits go, it's certainly a much healthier one.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about recreational use, man, there's not a whole lot. I mean, but you have to, it's all about dosage. If you don't have, and everyone's different, you know, so it's like, I can't speak for everyone, you know. There's instances where, you know, if you have a history of mental illness, like bipolar or schizophrenia in your immediate family, and there's like a chance, like if you're a youngster and you have that, and, you know, you're a high risk for, you know, there's a chance that if you, cannabis there's been instances where it's onset that. But I mean, that's been blown out of proportion to say that, well, it can give that. But it's like these people were already genetically predisposed to this. And like, regardless, any kind of stressful situation can trigger that, you know? Like if they're in a strong, you know, in like a relationship, a romantic relationship.
Of course,
You know what I mean? Like,
well, and there's also something to be said you know, when we're talking about like younger people using it, I mean, when your brain is still forming,
Right.
you know, then substances actually can do legitimate damage to your development. And so that's not to be underestimated or taken lightly. But you know, once you get to a certain point in adulthood where your brain is fully formed and you're a free adult able to make your own decisions, whether or not they're free will, you are still in control and responsible for your own situation. I mean, to I just think I think it's so fucked up, man, that like we're telling other people what they can and can't do, and then hypocritically allowing other things. You know, and I mean, you talk about opiates. Like so many people are given opiates for a totally legitimate reason. You know, to deal with pain after a serious injury. And again, soldiers like get addicted to
The opium's been around thousands of years. It's a remedy.
Yeah. Until it's not, you know, and people get these, you know, they're prescribed dosages that are too high for them, and like, how are you supposed to tell somebody, like, once they're addicted to morphine or OxyContin, that it's like, okay, well now, hey, my friend, your knee doesn't hurt anymore, so you don't need this anymore, and hey, sorry about that thing we got you addicted to, but now you're fucked. Right. So go through the withdrawal. Because I don't have to go through it. You go through it. Right. Like, you want to tear your own skin off, okay? I'm not going to do it, but you can because I gave you this thing. You know, and by the way, we don't have anything else that we can help you with. You know?
That dope sickness is fucked up.
Dude, I mean, I would never even want to just fuck with that, dude.
Wailing. You know?
Yeah.
And people kicking oxys, man, like, holy.
I have no experience with that, and I don't know anybody who has, so I can't speak to that at all, but it sounds like you do.
I've just witnessed it first.
Right, yeah.
You know, and it's just like, man, wailing through the night, just like cold sweats, just like, you know what I mean? It's just like as if you have like the most severe flu, like panic attack combined on top of each other.
Yeah.
Panic attack with the anxiety, and then the like flu symptoms, like the gnarliest flu, and then, you know?
Dude,
cannabis. I've let it go many times. I went 8 years without using it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then and then in the past few years I've been using it off and on. I think it's just, man, it's a rough one because they say they say it's not addictive, but in my personal experience, it's more of like a behavior addiction. It's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, there's no like physical withdrawal symptoms. I may have like a little loss of appetite when I let it go or something, or it may like disrupt my sleep cycle, but it's nothing that I can't like just get through.
Yeah, of course.
Like, it's worse to kick coffee almost.
Dude, I experiment occasionally with kicking coffee, and it's
headaches.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
Insane migraine type.
Yeah, I mean, dude, my smoking habit's always been weird, and cigarettes. I mean, like I've smoked on and off for I think 12 years now, and I've never been even a pack a day smoker. Like, I mean, you know, you'll see me out, and I'll go through a pack in 5 hours, but then the next 4 days I might have 8 cigarettes or 6 cigarettes, and it's like I know that's not people's common experience with smoking, but you know, for me, it is definitely more of a habitual thing that complements being out. You know, it's a distraction. It's a social tool. Like I try to be as self-aware as I can about what I'm putting into my body and how I'm reacting to it, and how I feel about the cost benefit analysis of what I'm doing. You know, I don't wake up in the middle of the night and need a cigarette. I don't have a cigarette first thing in the morning. Like, even smoking right now at 1:30 in the afternoon is much earlier than I would commonly ever do it. Like, I don't usually have a cigarette until, you know, 4, 5, 6 in the evening, if I have any at all that day. But yeah, so the psychological part of it is a much bigger draw than I think the nicotine habit has ever been for me. Like, I don't find myself having cravings unless they're directly attached to another behavior. Right. You know. Good.
Well, the tobacco for me has been an ongoing battle since I was. I mean,
Do you find it to be a battle? You actually is there a part of you that wants to just be quit and done with it?
I've quit. I've been smoking about 12 years too. When I quit, it's funny because I would only smoke when I drank and was partying, right? And then I was playing college athletics. I was like pretty focused on being somewhat healthy. But the thing is, when I quit doing everything, it was just the crutch. It was just like coffee and cigarette, caffeine and cigarette.
Yeah.
And like being out, I totally relate to that. But I've quit about 15 times in the last 12 years. You know what I'm saying? Like I quit for 4 months a little over a year ago.
The funny thing is somebody out there is being like, well, that's not quitting.
Stopping.
Dude, but that's the thing. I tell people when they want to stop smoking, like I'm like, what? Like don't call it quitting. Just say you're stopping, because if you say you quit and then you pick up another cigarette, then automatically you're telling yourself that you have failed at something you tried to do. Just be like, I'm going to stop for a while and see how that feels.
Exactly. It felt great. I'll tell you what, I had a ton of more energy. I was like, man, my day felt longer.
When you weren't smoking.
When I wasn't smoking.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
And I quit for a year one time. There's always these things that bring you back, though. It's always like some event that gives you a big case of the fuckets where you're just like, fuck it.
A big case of the fuckets. I like that,
fucking,
dude.
Yeah, that's some fucking AA lingo, but whatever.
Is it?
Yeah, it's funny shit. Oh man, I love throwing that in. Shit. Stuck in my brain.
So I am looking forward to the day where all drugs are legalized, and that is not because I want to do them. No, it is because go ahead. No, I think it's because we're giving people the branded substitute to the exact same drug, like Adderall, which I do take sometimes because it does exactly what it's fucking supposed to. Is not chemically all that different from methamphetamine, and it's not psychoactively that much different than cocaine from what people say. Again, having never done cocaine, I can't speak to that. Also, I can't speak to it because I've never done methamphetamine. But I know that when I take Adderall in a small dose to help me focus and produce work, like I don't have any euphoric feeling. It's not like I'm like, oh my God, I need more of this. I can't wait.
Yeah, you're not
it's like, no, man, I'm just focused.
It's like a performance enhancing drug.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Which is, by the way, I have no moral hang up about that.
I think all drugs should be legal. Like, look at Portugal. Look at the numbers, dude.
Yeah.
Just look.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes, and treat addiction as an actual medical problem that can be fixed.
It really is. Like, the work of Gabor Mate is this, man, he's up in Vancouver. He works with a lot of drug addicts. Yeah.
Dude, they provide legal, and by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like I've read in places multiple times that Vancouver, there's a section of Vancouver that used to be, I can't remember what it's called, you might know the name of it, but that they will make sure to be providing clean needles to people, and they treat these people's addictions to heroin as something that does not require imprisonment, it requires help.
Yeah, of course.
And
they supply the help.
Right, exactly. And giving people clean needles for something that they're going to find a way to do with dirty needles is better. Yeah. It's just morally better. And if you don't believe that, then you have no operative sense of morality, you know?
It's really, like, all these drug laws are ancient and stupid. They don't work. The war on drugs is crazy.
It's the most massive failure of U.S. government that you could argue it's the biggest one ever.
Yeah, and I think that it's just like the war on terror. Like, I don't know what these are wars on. What are we, like? Hold on a second. The war on terror is a separate thing, but I think it's a war on like a.
You can't battle a concept.
Well, that's terror as a concept. Drugs are actually different, so we'll just throw that one out of there. Let's just go to war on drugs. You mean drugs which are synonymous, like you go to a drugstore because it's synonymous with medicine. Yeah. So you mean all drugs are on some level medicinal, on some level have an effect that gives there's a cause and effect that could be used for positive benefit. Like, absolutely. I'm sure if you there's exceptions or whatever, like meth. You just take an Adderall.
Sure.
You're not going to use meth as a performance enhancing drug. I don't know what.
Right. Yeah,
Unless
like that.
You're trying to get better at like fucking ripping off fucking like
pieces of your own flesh.
or there's that,
or stores.
Like, or like
Yeah.
what are what are those little they're not carburetors, but those things that you put under cars. They're like the anyway.
Catalytic converter.
Catalytic converters.
Uh-huh.
Ripping off catalytic converters. Performance. I could get 5 of them in one night.
Dude, fucking, he can rob 7 families in one night to get your next fucking hit. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's no bueno. But Adderall, dude, there's every surgeon in America probably has benefited. They probably got through med school at some point.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's certain things.
Like
No, that's not. I don't think that's wrong.
Every single one, but
of course, but like, yeah. I mean, everybody knows that they're. And by the way, there are doctors that you can talk to. I mean, and I don't know this from firsthand experience because I don't do cocaine, so I don't give a fuck about it.
Right.
But I know people that do cocaine who have talked to who know doctors who do cocaine, and they're like, yeah, they say like, you know, in certain doses, like it's not going to do anything to you. Like it'll be in and out of your body, and then you move on.
Doctors are the gatekeepers to the drugstore.
That's true.
They write the prescription.
Yeah.
You know,
dude, in my novel, I actually
that's a very powerful position to be in.
It is. It is. Dude, in my novel, I have a the characters going to therapy, going to a psychiatrist throughout the book, and like a lot of characters in my book don't have names; they're just referred to as in a certain way they look or what their job is or whatever. But he's called Dr. Drug Dealer the whole time. Drug Dealer. Yeah, I mean that's because that's why people go. Dude, that's for a lot of people. That's why they go to a psychiatrist or to a doctor because they want their prescriptions filled. And there's nothing else. And by the way, it's not particularly difficult to walk into a psychiatrist's office and be like, "Hey, I have problem XYZ, and like I really want to try this to see if it gets better." And they're gonna give it to you.
Drug addicts are some of the most clever and manipulative genius motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Geniuses. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, man.
Getting away from the dope sickness.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds. They probably have like 4 or 5 psychiatrists if they need be.
That's true. Yeah, they cycle through them, like get them at all the different places. Yeah.
I mean, people.
It's funny to me, man, because when the medicinal thing started getting to be prominent, like over the last couple decades, the people who I know who have taken part in California's medicinal programs. People would always try to knock it, saying like it's so easy to get a card. All you got to do is go into one of these, quote unquote doctors and tell them your back hurts or tell them, you got fucking glaucoma at 30 or some shit, and they will be like, okay, well, let me write you a prescription for weed, and people like act like that's this joke, but it's not fucking any harder to go into a psychiatrist and be like, I'm having all these distractions.
Anxiety, I need Xanax.
Yeah.
I fucking my back hurts and narcos. And,
yeah.
And I have ADD, so I need some Adderall.
Yeah. And that's really all you have to say. Like if you do that in a convincing and responsible way, and you don't look like a total degenerate, they're gonna write it for you. And they'll
not all of them, but
not all of them, but they're gonna start you off on a low dosage and be like, okay, well, you know what? Let's try this for a couple of weeks. Let's see if this helps you. Like, I'm not going to write you a lot, but then you come back and let me know, like, how we're doing. And, and to them, by the way, I'm not trying to morally fault these people.
It's like the pain management clinics in Florida.
Sure.
They have those out there. Like, we had cannabis clubs out here. Like, the pain management clinics were just, like, exactly that.
Well, and so what is that? Like, you go in and you basically do it there? Or
they give you the prescriptions.
Right.
And there's a lot of them.
So it's essentially the same process, just under a different name as out here?
No, I'm saying they had in Florida they had pain management clinics, so you can go get
okay, yeah, I'm not that familiar with that.
Opiate prescriptions as easy as it would be.
Oh! I thought you were talking about for weed. So,
but now they do. I mean,
okay.
Now they have
right.
Yeah, now they have they just legalized.
But so you're saying that people used to walk into an office, a pain management clinic, and that they would just be like, hey, I was playing sports over the weekend and I twisted my knee and like the pain's insufferable. I can't fall asleep. Like it hurts to walk and blah, blah, blah. And they'll be like, okay, well, let me give you, hydrocodone or something.
Yeah, there was a lot of
Gotcha. Good God.
I mean, a lot of that.
Like that, you don't even have to prove you have an ailment to be able to get.
I think there maybe, and they probably
the minimal level
they
of
probably
proof.
made some reforms because there was a lot of people manipulating that system out
Right.
there, and I think there was a lot of people getting rich too.
But isn't it?
Those made, the people that own the pain management clinics.
Sure. Oh, I'm sure. But dude, that's the fucking craziest thing. Like, it's legally and morally okay right here, but if you do it like this,
right,
then it's not okay. It's the same fucking thing.
You're not allowed to self-medicate, essentially, legally in
Right.
America, because a lot of these people that are doing, street drugs are self-medicating for some other ailment,
Absolutely.
So.
And the other thing is, by the way, that like the people who walk into these psychiatrists or pain management clinics are also self-medicating. Yeah. They just have a middleman and a drug company in between them and the medication.
Yeah, and
they have to go to somebody and be like, "Hey, mom, can I have some drugs?" And mom says, "Yeah, go ahead and have the drugs." And then you walk into like a pharmacist, and then they're like, "Hey, here's your drugs that your mom said you could have."
Right.
And it's like, it's fucking crazy.
I wasn't trying to demonize drug addicts when I said that. I'm just saying, like...
Oh, I don't think you were.
Yeah, but when I did earlier when I said, they're the most clever, manipulative... Because I've just had a lot of experience with, like, just seeing it.
Yeah, man, but like...
I've just witnessed it. I'm like, but, and I understand that they're suffering too, but I'm just saying some people go so far with it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Their levels of willingness to fucking...
Right. But, dude, the thing is, those people don't just wake up one day like, I'm a drug addict.
No, it's
a slow progression into a physical and psychological
emotional
need,
spiritual, just whatever. It's just a complete... Yeah.
It's fucking sad, man. And when
it changes people's brain chemistry to the point where their personality changes, their fucking,
I've seen that too, man, because especially a drug like cocaine where you're getting that euphoria, that hit, like you do enough of it and then your brain stops forming those chemicals and keeping those chemicals on its own. Right. So the reason that people get addicted isn't because this drug is just like taking over your body. It's because it affects your brain chemistry. Your brain stops making the signals that it needs to make you feel happy. And you're like, God damn it, I feel so terrible. But it's going to make me feel better? That fucking cocaine. Yeah. And it's like either feel like shit until that feeling like shit feeling wears off, or you just do some more cocaine and then start the process all over again. And it's...
Cocaine's a motherfucker, dude. I had a little bout with it when I was like 18. And 19, like in that experimenting. Right. I had a friend that he never want to do it alone. So he was always twisting my arm to do it, but it wasn't really that hard. It was like one of those it was like a Groundhog Day of the same experience. And it was a shitty experience always. Mm-hmm. It always felt like it's the same shitty experience. You're like feel good and talkative for like 15, 30 minutes, somewhere in there. And then all you can think about is doing more of that thing. Yeah. Nothing that you can't smoke enough weed to get high. You can't drink enough alcohol to feel drunk. You're just like talkative and want to do that thing.
And still awake.
Yeah. And then you can't fall asleep and you hate yourself at 6 a.m. and then you finally fall asleep and you're like, I'm never doing that again. And then you wake up the next day feeling like shit and then you do it again at some point. You're like,
dude. Yeah. Well, and also, you're talking about somebody always wanting to have someone else to do it with, it's because people do you experience that guilt and shame internally enough times from having done it, and then it's like you're doing something bad for you that's going to hurt you. You're not going to feel better about it, so you need somebody else to give you moral license to do it. Right. It's like, well, hey man, it's like, I like to do it, but dude, my friend likes to do it too, and like we're just doing this thing together. It's not a fucking big deal.
Yeah, we just do it because people do it because they want to drink more. That's why. You know what I mean? Dude, it's really it's a party aid.
It is, especially in Los Angeles, man. That's one thing that I recognize because I was in a fraternity in college, and that was a big thing in my college is people doing cocaine, and they used to have all different names for it, and there was like a society. They made it all humorous to one another, so they didn't have to feel bad about it. They would the people who were upperclassmen would, the underclassmen would be taking it for the first time with these people, and it was what their friendships formed around. And so it became this whole society, but I was always able to, I never wanted to do it. And I also had a friend lose his father to drugs at a very young age, and I was present while that happened. And so for me, I was just always like, I'm staying far away from this. And like we used to have, like when we would graduate, right before we graduated, we would have this thing called senior speeches. And you would sit down and, you know, over the years, you know, whenever seniors would leave, they would pass down all their like little trinkets or pieces of artwork or whatever that they want, you know, the things from college that they were going to leave behind. They would choose different people in the fraternity to leave those things to, and then they would talk about their experience and provide whatever sort of guidance they would want to underclassmen. And I remember talking for a while about cocaine and why everybody was trying so hard to normalize it for everybody else and how fucking pathetic I thought it was. And, you know, I've drawn back off that, the judgmental aspect of that over, you know, the last, you know, 15 or so years. But
it's hard not to be judgmental though, because it's like being around cokeheads is fucking annoying.
It is annoying.
As
but,
shit,
yeah, but it wasn't even just so much about me. It was like, I know that you guys are only doing this to be cool. And like, it's not that cool.
Well, because especially when you're like fucking shopping at Erewhon.
Mm.
To eat organic too.
Dude, you know what?
I'm just talking shit. Wherever.
No, it's true, but
you're not at your local co-op, whatever. Like, and then you go do fucking blow, and you're like, man, but okay, I get the whole being, I get it, right? But you can't be that big of a hypocrite because there's fucking beheadings in Juarez. Like you can see them online. Yeah. It's all because of this fucking drug, like straight up. You know what I mean?
It's true, man.
And it's all because of our appetite for it.
Well, they never have to see what goes into the process. And that's what's so funny for me when people are talking about how immoral the drug companies are. It's like, yo, you are financially supporting some of the worst things that happen in the world. And like
crazy.
People like being able, I don't know how people disconnect themselves from the morality of that. It's because you don't actually have to see the whole process, but it's still fucking crazy. Do you follow Overheard LA on Instagram?
No, but
you should.
Seen it. I've seen it in the feed, and I've like looked in on it, and it's hilarious.
You should. That's my boy Jesse. He's gonna come on here. But so there was one post a few weeks ago where somebody said it's actually more acceptable in LA to do coke than to drink coke, and it was dead fucking on, dude. Yeah.
Coca-Cola's wicked too.
Right?
Fuck, dude, the Mormons own that?
The Mormons own it?
The majority of it?
Do they? I have no idea.
Sure it's the number 2 most recognizable brand in the world. It's like easier to drink Coca-Cola in some third world countries than it is to get fresh water, man.
Dude, it's funny because if you asked Alex Jones, he would tell you that it's the system of elite pedophiles who are trying to reach the 12th dimension, and those are the people behind the whole thing. Dude, I listened to him on Joe Rogan last week, and that motherfucker is a Looney Tune.
I just listened to it yesterday.
Dude,
he's on some. Is he just on coffee? Or no, he was drinking and smoking weed, so he was getting ramped up.
Yeah.
He's fucking awesome. Whatever he's done for so long, I mean, and he's like, what? I mean, I just like listening to him talk because he gets so into it, man. He's so passionate.
Well, I think one of the things is, man, and I don't remember who said this to me many years ago, but I've always found it so true that, like, if you're smart enough, you can pretty much rationalize anything. You know what I mean? So if you're able to connect the dots the way he does, you know, he sees XYZ problem, he gets these little snippets of information from all these various sources, and then he puts it together, and he's smart enough to do all that, but too fucking dumb to be like, what you're saying is absolutely fucking insane. You know, he like doesn't make that next like little mental leap to...
I loved how Joe Rogan kept reeling him in too.
I mean, he was doing his best,
they're
but...
They're a great team, man. They should.
Oh yeah, listen, man, it was entertaining as fuck.
I know, because I got spun out on fucking conspiracy theories for a while, and that's what I'll call it. You get spun out, and that's what he is.
Well, you go down the rabbit hole, and it's like
spun the fuck out, dude.
Yeah, and the funniest thing,
like, because like, let's just be real, dude. Like, some of the stuff that he's talking about is factually.
Sure, but like I'm saying with the rationalization thing, like you can't take fact X, Y, and Z and then assume that it's like this answer.
And like you start connecting dots that aren't there, and that's where you get into trouble. Or you start assuming intention or causality.
Right, exactly.
You know, like,
exactly.
I mean, there's Robert Anton Wilson he's like the ultimate conspiracy theorist.
he broke it all down into a very simple, after being spun out for decades on it, and got to the bottom of it, and he basically simplified the whole thing as there is a grand conspiracy to take over the world, and it's being waged by you and your closest friends.
And what did he mean by that?
Just there's infinite conspiracies going on all the time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You and your friends have plans that you're, or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
So, like,
okay, I get
various,
what you're saying.
At various scales, it's like, dude, like, where do you want to fucking dive in and try to fucking uncover some shit?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's kind of like go ahead.
How many laundromats out here are fucking actually laundromats, or what are they?
They're all like fronts for the Armenian mafia.
Yeah, who knows? You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure. I mean, and even that goes to like the Nietzschean will to power. Like people have this underlying urge to consume as much personal power as possible. Even the kindest people like are still subject to this animal nature that we have through evolution. And yes, certainly people are trying to gain power in whatever sphere they're in. And it couldn't be more obvious than when you look at an election like the last one and see how many different cogs are spinning, whichever side you're on. I mean, there is a certain level of power that you're able to attain through the democratic process, and people with bad intentions are going to use that in bad ways. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that George Soros is out there trying to figure out ways to fuck your kids, which is where Alex Jones gets fucking crazy, and he's got like the LA lizard people and shit.
Oh,
That there was an underground society of lizard people in Los Angeles that control everything? Oh, well, you should look into that because it's definitely there. And it's how funny was it on that Alex Jones podcast where he was like, he's like, well, you can just find it on Google. Well, right. Yeah, man, you can find fucking anything on Google. Yeah,
find anything on Google, sir. Is he referencing David Icke on the lizard people thing? I think
he very well might be. I truthfully have not delved into the lizard people enough.
He's not able to simply clarify when he's making a metaphor for something, and when he's being literal about something. Because if he could just simply clarify that, because I think what he's referencing maybe is that lizard people, meaning that they're stuck in their like the lizard brain, right? They're the limbic,
and that would make sense if he said
which is controlling their operating system. They're not like living in their neocortex like some bohemian artist.
But there actually is a conspiracy about actual lizard people living under Los Angeles.
Okay.
But besides that, yes, no, keep going.
With that.
Yeah, I know, but no, that's right. And if
There's
he was
so many weird conspiracies, though. It's like, dude, what's under the Denver airport? The Denver airport conspiracy? You looked into that?
No, but I know Tyrell Ventura is a friend of mine, and his dad Jesse Ventura. He's big into that one. And he's talked about that a lot. They had like some conspiracy show a while back.
Awesome. Jesse Ventura is awesome.
Well, I mean, yeah, but he also might be crazy.
Yeah,
the funniest thing,
he was. I mean, I've played sports. I got concussions.
Sure. You think maybe he got hit too hard?
He did some heavy, stuff back in the day.
I listened to an interview with him.
Or a Navy SEAL, rather.
Right.
Like, I mean,
and then a pro wrestler.
Yeah. I mean, he's a little kooky.
So I listened to him.
He feels right, though. Like, he feels like he's well-intentioned, right?
Oh, 100%. I don't doubt his sincerity at all.
Not at all.
But,
cool.
I listened to an interview with him not too long ago, and he was always like, follow the money.
That's it.
And now, he and Tyrell, they both have shows on RT, Russian television. And Tyrell has been adamantly defending RT and trying to say that the Russians did not like influence the American election. And I'm like, Tyrell, what the fuck are you talking about? And I mean, it's to the best of our knowledge, and now nobody can know everything, and I don't pretend to, but to the best of our knowledge, with the most reputable sources we can find, it seems like there's pretty widespread agreement that they did try to tamper with the election. And even Donald Trump has had to admit it. And so it's like,
it's not
to
hard.
deny that, you would have to have a good reason to deny it, and to say that you trust the Russian people saying no more than you trust the American people saying yes. And that's not a jump I'm prepared to take. And then to both of them, I'm like, well, you guys always say follow the money, but who the fuck's paying you? And I still would love, Tyrell and I have talked about him coming on here a bunch of times, and we've argued maybe too much in the last couple of months for him to still want to do that. But
interesting because they have some very, very charged topics on RT, and it's not hard to like make that. I mean, if their topics are very shaded in one direction, it's clear they're at least trying to influence on some level.
Absolutely,
I mean, just with RT. You know, like I became aware of them on YouTube a long time ago, and because I thought they had interesting people on that I was interested.
Absolutely.
In. And I was like, well, I'm not getting these people aren't getting. I want to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, and by the way,
they're not getting any exposure from wherever else. So like, oh, that's interesting.
Sure.
And like, so on that level, you're like, okay, maybe if they're like, maybe if Russia's big plan is to like have like. People on with different perspectives, just to like give an alternative viewpoint for the American people to see. If that's meddling or whatever, right. I mean, it's like
no, and that stuff's fine to me, man. I mean, I always want to hear the counter narrative. In fact, like one of my goals for myself in like how much information I try to consume and then spit out my own interpretation, and people can take it or leave it. That's fine. Right. But like, I want to provide a counter narrative, because if people are taking this viewpoint too easily without doing the homework on it, like I at least want to provide the viewpoint that says, well, hey, listen, what if you're completely wrong about this? And I think that's a valuable thing to hear. I mean, even for myself, like, show me where the narrative I believe is wrong, and I at least want to hear it. And I might reject it out of hand, or I might do some research and reject it, but I at least want to know what other people are saying. But then, I mean, if you go the opposite route, and then start taking the belief that like American media and American government are lying to you all the time, and so now instead you're going to accept the narrative just as easily from Russian television, that's fucking crazy to me. You know, like, why would you just substitute one bad narrative for the other? Like, the idea is to take the opposing viewpoints and try to discern to the best of your ability, like, where the truth lies, or get as close to it as you possibly can. Because listen, man, I'm under no illusion that I have like some special source or special insight into the truth about the world. You know, I try to understand it to the best of my ability, and my number one tool in that whole thing is just skepticism. You know,
exactly.
and
my attitude is like, I know nothing.
Right.
Really, I mean, when it comes down to it, everything that I think I know, as soon as I'm like, oh, I know that, literally it'll get flipped over on its head. And it's happened to me too many times where I'm just like, listen, I know that I know nothing. That's the one thing I know.
It's very Socratic of you, brother. But so, yeah, I mean, for me, though, it's like I think it's just as much an important tool to be able to say, like, okay, I don't know what the right answer is in this situation, but I know the thing you're saying is fucking bullshit. You know?
Oh, you can feel it. Dude.
Yeah.
Like, when someone, you can just, like, look at obvious. I mean, I grew up in a really right-wing, religious, like, community, you know? And it's just like, man.
I didn't know that, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just like, I guess I'm technically an agnostic.
Yeah.
You know? And listen, I want to believe in all kinds of fucking comforting shit.
Yeah.
Man. You know what I mean? I want to believe that the American government has my best interests at heart.
And I'm sure some of the people do, and some of the people don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that these, you know, we're so doubtful, or we're so doubting of people in political office. But the truth is, again, we talk about addicts. They don't just start out one day as an addict. No. Like, the people that go into government, like, probably go in with the best intentions, and some of them keep those intentions throughout their time in government, and some of them fucking don't. And it's okay to admit that some people might not have your best interests at heart, but some of them might. And so, like, you can't just dismiss them all out of hand as like, these people are just power hungry assholes trying to take over the world, like Alex Jones. Like, not every one of them is trying to, like, destroy society for their own benefit, or to, like, enrich the Rothschilds. You know what I mean? It's like, settle down, bro.
It's so complex. It's so complex. Who knows what's actually happening? There's so much information out there. I guess it's, you know, it's a lot of information that we know nothing about.
Yeah.
Really.
Yes.
These are multi-decade careers that have relationships that span
Yeah.
And we're talking about people that have actual power. It's not like power in your little reality bubble. You know, I mean, there's like, it's like, you know, there's power in Hollywood, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of power. There's power in Silicon Valley. That's big power.
Big power.
There's
power in the oil business.
There's power in different, but like power in Washington D.C. is pretty global, man.
Yes, 100%.
And it's
I'm
like
totally with you.
fucking. That's a whole nother level of like whose lives are being affected and shit that gets.
Because honestly, everybody
in the fucking world, cause and effect. It's like at that level, and you're like, who's influencing these choices for real? Because it's not the fucking American people,
right?
Clearly. So then, okay, but these choices that are getting written on paper are going to last for 50+ years, forever. Sometimes I'm talking once that shit gets written there. And it gets put on wax there, it's done. Yeah. For a couple 100 years or something.
No, I'm with you, man.
I mean, how long ago did that? You know, we abolished slavery and started recognizing corporations as a person. That's what happened. Yeah. That was the flip flop. That was the trade off. Yeah, that's look what happened. I mean, now you have a corporation, a corporate entity, a legal entity of paperwork. That is in a court of law legally recognized as a person, but a person can die, right? And these corporations have been around 130+. Yeah, I mean, how long? I mean, sure. Can they die? At one point, the corporation's immortal, so that's how the thing lives on. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's just fucking weird, dude. It definitely is weird. But here's the flip side thing about the corporations, you know, because again, like in terms of supplying the counter narrative, I mean, everybody is so anti-corporation now. Like, you know, it's right in our politics. Right. Donald Trump doesn't really speak about it this way, but sort of does. Bernie Sanders was all over it. But like, how many people in middle America with 401ks have those investments directly linked to the profit and loss of all these corporations we pretend to hate? And it's like, okay, you know, you hate the corporation, then take that corporation down and watch your 401k vanish. Right. You know, it's not as simple as like you can demonize corporations and the little man is good. You know, it's just fucking not that simple. I mean, we live in such a complex society of fucking 320 million people in this country, and there's no mechanism big enough to control all that in a rational and effective way. You know, which for me is like one of the most brilliant parts of, you know, the Constitution and like federalism as it was intended, to allow states to make choices for their localities. Right. And now those localities were a lot smaller back when all this stuff came to be, but I mean, empowering government, moving governmental power as local as possible should be the goal. It's not like sweeping Democratic, you know, full Democratic vote, because the thing that we like in California ain't good for Montana. Right, of course. And that's where change actually happens in local counties, in your own county, in your own city, you know, and that's where change can really, you can actually, your vote really counts. You know, I mean, we're in a blue state, right? So, yeah. I mean, yes, our presidential, like, so your vote for Trump didn't even count, dude. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah. No, I'm. Oh wait, I didn't. Oh, you didn't see my personal vote. No, I did not vote for Trump. But yeah, I mean, the idea that people are like, well, California's just going to go blue anyway, so I don't have to participate. Well, that's a terrible, terrible fucking idea. Right. Especially for all the people that were like, well, Michigan's going to go blue anyway, or Pennsylvania's going to go blue anyway, or Wisconsin's going to go blue anyway. No, those three states all went fucking red by small margins, and we'd have a different president if your ass decided to take your civic duty responsibly and go out and vote. Totally. You know, it just gets interesting because people are like, okay, well, I don't want to vote because I don't believe in the system. The system's corrupt, and I morally don't feel right voting for either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. And I understand that motivation, but thing they're like, well, I'm going to go vote for Jill Stein. And you're like, okay, cool, vote for Jill Stein. Let's fuck yeah. Well, listen, man, I think everybody has. Vote for fucking, you know. I think everybody should have the right to vote for whoever the fuck they want, and I would never take that away from anybody. But the thing is, man, if you have two options, both of which you despise, and you can still detect that one is better than the other, then it's not more moral to decide to abstain, because one of them is going to happen in reality. And so you are just abdicating your responsibility by not choosing. Right. You know, like if you have a chance
to make something even like this much better than it would be the other way, you have a moral responsibility to choose that thing, you know, and you can be wrong or whatever, but like the people who are like, yeah, I voted Jill Stein because I want the system to change. Well, you know what? That ain't how you make the system change. You want third parties, either start one or support one in your local community and groom candidates who in 4 years or 8 years or 16 years can actually rise to power and represent you the way you want to be represented. But that doesn't start by voting for a president who is guaranteed to lose every 4 years.
Man, people got the. Oh, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
No, I just like it's like clearly the people wanted Bernie, man.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't agree with that, but
I just like that was what the people wanted. Fucking DNC robbed him.
I don't agree with that whatsoever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You don't think they like?
I mean, listen, man.
They did their best effort to get Hillary the nod.
Well, okay.
I mean,
it's a little bit of an explanation, but I'm happy to give it to you.
All right, I want to hear you.
I think that in many ways Hillary was assumed to be a shoo-in, and so the structure was trying to empower her as best they could. As far as the DNC goes, the DNC's only reason for existence is to raise money for the Democrats and to get Democrats elected. And at the point at which Hillary was a lock for the nomination, which was March 15th of last year on the Super Tuesday, she had gotten a delegate lead so massive that there was no chance in Bernie catching up. And Bernie kept his candidacy going for another 5 months, the entire time damaging Hillary Clinton's chances of winning the White House. And he did so in a lot of underhanded ways. Now, as far as the emails go, there's not a single one of those emails that was written before March 15th. And if there was something damning that that the DNC did do before then, there's no proof of it. WikiLeaks did not release anything prior to March 15th, to my knowledge. And if somebody out there can show me something that they did do, then that's fine. But after March 15th, when Bernie had no mathematical chance of winning, the DNC as an organization has a responsibility to themselves, to the sure thing nominee, which is Hillary Clinton, and to every other candidate right on lower on the ballot than she is. They have a responsibility to them to give all of them the best chance at winning. And so for them to figure out ways, or actually not even to figure out ways because there's no proof that they actually did anything, but for them to discuss ways that they're going to empower Hillary Clinton to as swift a victory as possible, only is to me only a factor of their actual duty to their organization, to the Democratic voter, and to Democratic politicians around the country. Because them allowing Bernie to stay around for as long as they did absolutely hurt Hillary. And here's the other thing, man.
There was a lot of Bernie supporters that voted for Trump.
I'm sure that's true too.
I mean, that's a weird. I don't know what a lot is.
I mean, listen, man.
I'm not gonna
small enough.
I'm
Dude,
just going to say, if you could get the actual numbers somehow, I guarantee you, your mind would be blown, and you'd be like, "What?" I
don't think it would be blown. I don't underestimate that number at all. Right. I understand that as a factor for sure.
I talked to numerous people in rural.
I know. I believe you.
And rural California is very similar. It's like everywhere.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's
Dude, I grew up in a town of 500 people, so I know.
Yeah.
I know these.
I mean, so yeah, very similar. It's like I talked to numerous people up there that were just like fucking over it. Just
I get it.
Anything but another one of these.
I get it. I
think people were really pissed off. There's a lot of people that are really pissed off about Obama winning a Nobel Peace Prize and
and the droning and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, dude, there's
like immediately after invading the country, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very.
That's what the fuck?
I know.
It's like a mind melter.
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, I'm very one-sided when it comes to actual elections because I think that the ends justify being one-sided, at least for me. But when that's over, when there's not a direct contest right now, I think it's time to reassess like where we are, where we can be better, and what we can do in the future to fix these things. Let me say one last thing about Bernie, though, and it's this.
Oh, yeah.
Bernie was not a Democrat. Bernie has been independent for his entire life,
and I understand
Bernie
that aspect because his views were a bit too not democratic.
Yeah, they're not. They're not. Yeah, I mean,
I understand that perspective. I totally get that because he had some very alternative.
But the thing for me is, Bernie made himself a national figure. Bernie started running for president because a group that was trying to convince Elizabeth Warren to run failed at doing so, and she was a Democrat. And so they next went to Bernie Sanders and were able to elevate him onto a national stage by getting him to run as a Democrat and then taking advantage of the Democratic debate stages and the infrastructure of the DNC. And so, like, I have a real hard time listening to the whining and complaining of Bernie people about the DNC and what the Democratic Party did to them because he used them. You know what I mean? Bernie would still be an irrelevant senator from Vermont if it weren't for the Democratic Party and the DNC and him abusing that structure. So that's my standpoint on all that, but yeah.
No, I understand that for sure.
I mean, I think if we're going to be fair about what effect Bernie had, we have to like take that side into account too.
It's like 20% of the population votes anyways.
It is. It's fucking crazy. Well, like, not 20% of the adult eligible population, but yeah, it's a really bad low percentage.
Literally, 23 or something.
I mean, I think it was 125 million out of 320 million, but how many of them aren't eligible? I mean, I think it was in the 40s or 50s in terms of the eligible voter percentage that actually did show up to vote. But that still does leave you over 100 million votes. And like those 100 million people just decided that they didn't want to participate. You know, like even if you hate both presidential candidates, I have still never understood the motivation to not just take an hour of your time and get to the voting booth and use the little voice you have. Because a lot of people don't have a voice other than that.
I realize that. I think there's power in that. But I think people just feel so disenfranchised.
Oh, 100%. I completely agree with that.
I mean, to the point where they're just like, I'm not even going to entertain the game that y'all are trying to make us play. Like, I already have to play it enough.
I get it, but
I'm like, there's the majority of people feel so powerless.
I'm 100% with you on that, man.
It's like, to the point where you're like, okay, really, is this vote does count, right? I mean, there's no, like, voter fraud. There's no, like, I mean, people don't rig and steal elections from fucking Al Gore, you know?
Yeah, I mean, listen, man.
Or, like, people don't, it's just crazy.
I get that.
It feels like
I get that, but if people were empowered to take part in the process, the rigging would be impossible. Right. You know what I mean? It's our own apathy that is rigging the election.
They don't really, I mean, I mean, you know, I agree with Mark
Twain. What quote are you going to drop on me?
If voting mattered, they wouldn't let you do it.
That's incredible, dude. I love it.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, I just resonate with that sentiment so much, and I think a lot of people do. That's what, and I think they're fudging the numbers all over the place, dude. Like, let's be real. Like,
I'm not sure I can go there with you, but
they gotta be like.
I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Right.
Fuck, I don't know. You don't know.
The
you know what I mean?
51-49, like this. It's just like.
I know, man. I just have a real hard time making statements like that if I can't back them up.
I'm not even. It just feels weird because, like, where are the numbers coming from? They're constantly just throwing numbers around. Trump's even throwing numbers around.
Well, yeah, I mean, but Trump just says whatever the fuck he wants.
Right.
You know, Trump actually said last week that that if there was a bad poll for him, then it was fake news. Like, that's his standard of bullshit in the world, is if it looks bad for him. That's fucking crazy. But dude, I mean, here about the numbers though, man. There are these. Man. What's that?
We're in a new world.
Oh, we are definitely. But about the numbers, man, like you can take the numbers out of every little precinct, and sometimes they're within a couple of votes of each other. You know what I mean? And so if you can't, like, you can go down to your local precinct and be like, oh, well, it was 222 to 214. Like, you're telling me another 10 people couldn't have left their house that day and swayed that precinct? Like, you have to have at least that much faith in the fact that your neighbors are down there representing the correct number. You know what I mean? And like when they turn them into the Secretary of State, it's the correct number because it's your fucking neighbors doing it, man. And if we all have that little faith in our own neighbors, I think then we're really fucked.
Joe Rogan has a great idea to just why, and it's probably not even his idea, but that's where I heard it. But it's like it should just be an app. You should just
Yes,
literally
yes,
just fucking
yes.
vote on an app.
And I think that in the
Get
next,
with the program.
yeah, I am 100% with you on that. Like we have to have some,
And they're like, oh, it could be hacked. You're like, yeah, but the
but this can
could
be hacked
already
too.
be hacked.
Yeah,
They already,
yeah.
there's so many documentaries about it.
Yeah.
It's a done deal. Yes, they can be hacked. It's
Right.
like, come on.
All right, dude, we're coming up on 2 hours and it's 10 after 2, so I know you have places to go.
Thank you.
Dude, so so obviously people can find Green is Gold on iTunes.
Yeah.
Buy that shit, support your art. There's nothing more important than you can do if you're a consumer of art than actually spending your money on the art you consume, because the reason you don't get the art you want is because you don't pay for the art you want. And then people who can't make money on their art immediately are not getting their voices put into the public sphere. So, dude, congratulations on being guerrilla about it and making your own fucking film and taking that responsibility on yourself and investing your time and your own money and all your own effort. That's fucking awesome. Guys, it's like $10. Just go on iTunes and buy it, or fucking rent it for $6.
Redbox for $1.
Redbox for $1. There you go. If you want to be a real cheap ass about it. But see Green is Gold. It's a great little piece of indie filmmaking. Dude, where can they find you? You have a greenisgold.com. Is that what it's called? Or the website?
Yeah, I believe so.
Green is Gold movie or something.
Yeah.
If you Google Green is Gold movie, you'll find it. And Instagram or Twitter or anything where people can follow you, or you're not that active?
I have an Instagram.
Okay, cool.
Ryon Baxter. RYONBAXTER.
Yeah, Ryan with an O. And you can follow the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at None Taken Pod. Please go to iTunes or Google Play and subscribe. Leave us a rating if you like the show. And shit, man, I think that's it.
Awesome.
All right, brother. Thank you for coming on. That was fun.
Cool.
All right, dude.